Hey everybody, Larry Bailey here, Awesome Technologies Inc. Mortgage.community. Luba. Luba is the winner. First to comment. Thanks, Luba, for playing that game. We get together here every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, which is exactly where I am. I'm in Seattle right now. The Space Needle is right jaw. And I'm in my hotel room after making a 5-hour trip back and forth to Vancouver. And we'll talk about that just in a moment. Today's topic is all about best practices for general performance, baselines, admin tools, plugins. This is all part of May and June's concept of creating self-health checks. And so for those that know me and have followed me over the years, I'm always about workflow before technology. And I'm also about doing settings reviews regularly. So if you are not in a position to outsource that responsibility, that means it's your responsibility. And part of the challenge, I'll get to that one second, Jeremy. Part of the challenge of doing self-health checks is A, knowing what the heck to do, B, knowing what to look for, C, having some type of plan, D, having a resource to bounce things off of, like, hey, this is what we do. Is that good? Is it bad? I heard from somebody it's like the worst thing. I heard from somebody else it's fine. So I'm going to share with you everything I've learned over the last, where are we now, 24? So the last 17 years? I'm going to say 16 years. I'll round up. 16 years of administering Encompass for all different kinds of companies, retail, non-retail, for my own mortgage company, and those kinds of things. And I'm going to share with you what I found to be best practices for health checks. I'm going to try to distill some of the truth from fiction, some of the reality from urban legend. I don't know if I'll always get it right, but I can tell you that what I share with you is what I know to be true. And what I believe to be true. And if you find something different, that's why we are a community. I encourage you to really talk about it as a group and really focus in on how to make your Encompass the best Encompass. So that's what we're going to be talking about. Jeremy asks, hey, Larry, this is a bit off topic, and you confirm the dates for Mastering Cert. Jeremy, good news. You can join the Mastering Encompass admin cert anytime. There is no start date. There is no end date. It's actually built to allow you to start anytime. It's good for 12 months. Katie's in the program. Amy's in the program. Katie wants you to come join the cool kids. I'd agree with that. And we do a lot of good work there. Matter of fact, I'm not going to share the news, but I heard some really good news that one of our folks that just recently went through there joined back another company that we all know here in the community. So I'll save that announcement for them to make. But it is a really good thing. And what I try to do is share information that you probably don't come across during your day. And the reason why I come across it is because I'm helping people all the time. Number one. Number two, I'm like one of those geek boys that just loves to understand Encompass. I'm meeting actually with a couple of folks from ICE here Friday. At the deep level, to really start to pull out a lot of great information ahead of time, so I can make sure I get some lessons out to you as a community, and for those that really want to make a difference. So if you're here live, awesome. If you ever want to come up on stage and ask a question, all it means is that I invite you as a speaker. You can turn on your mic. You don't have to be on video, but you're always welcome to come in and ask questions and talk through things. If that's not your jam, you can always use the chat function here in the community. And if you're watching this on replay, awesome, thank you. And you can also add comments to the thread in the community. So let's get hustling here. And the very first thing that we're going to talk about is what is a self-health check? Encompass Health Check has been around since I don't know when. Like, I legit don't know when. I don't know when Ellie Mae started that. I'm going to guess it's sometime around 2012, 13 maybe. I worked for Ellie Mae, just a quick history. I worked for Ellie Mae between 11 and 13 as an implementation project manager. I was the guy that created the first YouTube videos on how to basically implement Encompass, because I had 30 projects at one time. And to go through the same setting with a new person repeatedly will drive anyone kind of bonkers, which it was me. So I created the videos, and that led into kind of what I'm doing today. Point I'm bringing up is there was no health check at that time, really, because everybody was just coming on to Banker and really starting to learn how to use, at that time, SDK. And so when larger companies came on, this idea of customization began to really spread its wings. And if you look at your Encompass, whether you were at your company from day one or you walked in behind some other admin or admins, the Encompass that you control is still your responsibility. It's like buying a used car. It doesn't really matter who had it before. What matters is it's yours. And you have to take responsibility for that. And I take this very seriously, A, because that's just kind of who I am, but B, it's because it's what I do. And it's kind of like my street cred. And so the reason why people typically trust what I have to say and trust what I have to do is because I've done it and I can do it, and I can take my hands and put them on those keyboards and do whatever it is I want to do. And that's from years and years of experience, years and years of failing, but always trying to do better. And so these the Self-Health Check series, every week we're going to be doing this on our Tuesday meetings, different topics. So check out the topics. I think I loaded up May's. I don't know if we loaded up June's yet. So definitely check out those topics. And if you have anything specific that you want to ask about those topics, now's the time. Amy said, I learned something from every single class. It is true. It's kind of like my life's mission, where I have to get Amy to learn something new, which is kind of hard because she comes to every class like 5 days a week. And so I got to, she keeps me on my toes. What can I say? Candace adds, the company I worked for at the time went live with Encompass in 14. We had our first health check in 16 after we bought another mortgage company. Yeah. So Candace, like, you get a health check because you're like, there's so much, and I don't know what's right, and I don't know what's wrong, and help. And so you typically would turn to Ellie Mae at the time, and now you might typically turn to ICE. My problem with the health checks is, and I have one. I recently received one from a company who wants me to basically come behind and do a more comprehensive one. And the problem with health checks is they typically will recommend something that is settings based and not workflow based. So when I do a full review, like a full company health check, it's both settings and workflow. And for you as an Encompass admin, you should be doing that constantly. I know it's hard right now because we're mostly decentralized, where you don't work in the same building as all of your teams. But if you do have the luxury of being on site with your teams, get up out of your chair and go walk around and watch what people do. I'm telling you, it's like magic, because you'll walk up and you'll watch them do something, and you'll go over and you'll be like, hey, how come you're doing it that way? And they're like, I don't know. This is what, that person told me and this other person told me to do. And you're like, no, do it this way. And they're like, oh my God, I didn't know you could do it that way. Thanks. You saved my life. I'm being dramatic, but I'm not far off the game. So these are the things that are really important to do as an admin, is to make sure you understand how your company is using your system, because that's part of the self-health check. Part of this lesson, when we go through these topics, it is to make sure that you have a clear understanding that this is not just about the admin settings. This is about how your company is using Encompass, and how you should be configuring your settings to align with your workflow, mostly because when the business decides to change its workflow, you've got to be able to snap your fingers, and you've got to be able to pivot your settings to support your company. That's really the takeaway here. So on that topic of starting with the self-health check, the first thing that I like to focus in on is admin tools. And the reason why is because, truthfully, when was the last time you went into your admin tools and poked around? There's 26 people on here right now. If anybody said they went into their admin tools voluntarily to check on things, not to perform a function, but to literally just check like, hey, how do we have this thing set up? Just because you want to remember, if you've done that in the last quarter, kudos to you. You're rare. You're a rare bird. Most people don't go in to admin tools unless it's necessary. You might go in there because of a release and you want to check some things out. But one of the things that you have to keep an eye on is how you have your admin tools configured, because remember, admin tools lay on top of Encompass. And it's going to get more complicated now with Encompass Web, because we have this, it's called a hub and spoke concept, right? So Encompass is at the hub, it's the middle. And then you have all these little spokes that go out to the wheel, the connect wheel. So when you're looking at admin tools, it's very easy to forget where things are. It's also very easy to not go in there for a long time. Server Settings Manager is one of the places that, I would tell you to focus in on health checks. Here, I'll share a screen if I can not break. Here we go, share screen one. So you guys are seeing Server Settings Manager. One of the things that I'm going to make sure that you remember is, first of all, on EDS. So EDS Custom Form Processing. Now, one of the ways that you can create efficiencies through your self-health check is to determine how many custom print forms your team is actually producing. Remember that desktop runs by basically launching your Word program that's local on your desktop to produce a non-Adobe version PDF. They use 3 other Adobe knockoff drivers. And to keep down cost, of course. But if you keep this off, you're doing all that local side conversion, whereas if you turn that on, now all that custom print forms, what's happening is the file is being sent to EDS with the request for the EDS engine, and EDS engine will actually convert your Word docs into PDFs to return it with the package. Now, this is this is a little bit tricky because there's things to take care of. But in terms of health checks isn't just like, hey, how are things? It's like, how can we make things better? If you wanted to improve your load time, or if you wanted to think forward to Encompass Web, gang, I got news for you. When you're producing documents in Encompass Web, it ain't going to launch Word. It's going to want to do something server side. Imagine you have somebody who's using Encompass Web and they're on a machine that doesn't have Word licensed. Luba, your company uses Google. I don't even know how you get through this problem personally, but because we never talked about it. But the idea is, what if your company no longer had to actually worry about Microsoft licensing for everyone because everyone didn't need Word and Excel on their machine? Like, those are the 2 programs. Those are the only 2 programs you have to have installed to get Encompass to run properly. So this is one I call out, an EDS category. Be aware of it, think about it. Another one I like to talk about in terms of health check is passwords. Now, if you haven't heard me talk about the admin lockout, I'm going to bring this up again. These are things that you have to worry about. This is security. Now, you might not think your job is about security, but damn well it is. And if you do not have admin lockout enabled, that means that if you don't have MFA enabled or you don't have SSO enabled, somebody could find out your client ID, which isn't hard in today's environment. Somebody could figure out your client ID and try to log into your environment using admin, because every Encompass has admin, and they could just sit there with a password breaker and try to figure out what your admin password is. Scary, scary stuff. So having said that, make sure that you're checking on this to make sure it's consistent with your IT security policy. Real big stuff. And now again, show of hands. Who has recently gone in to make sure that your password category, that your settings match your IT department's requirements from a security standpoint? And again, if you said yes, that you've recently done this because it was part of a thing, great. Stephanie says we are asked annually. Fantastic. So these are the things, guys, that you really want to think about, because it's a bad world out there. Like bad actors, you've got really valuable information in your Encompass, and you also have fiduciary responsibility to protect it. Maggie says during a meeting with her IT, yes, otherwise wouldn't have. Jillian says when we were set up a Encompass a couple of years ago, aka checking. So yeah, I appreciate the honesty, Jillian. That's the thing, and I will bring this up. So you have MFA here, multi-factor authentication, and in this instance, I don't have the TPO. Normally, there's a checkbox here for TPO. So if you have TPO enabled, it would be right there. So MFA is if you've got ping. Truthfully, I go with SSO. If I have a choice in my magical company that doesn't exist, it's always single sign-on. And the reason why is because I can control single sign-on far more efficiently than MFA. And so that's on that topic. Candace says, need to check that again. I don't have access to admin tool. I don't have ready access. Yeah, because you don't have local admin, right, Candace? Maggie says, would love to understand SSO better. Brian says, we use IP restrictions. Brian, you're going to have to visit that with Encompass Web unless you're going to have everybody log into a VPN, which means you're still not using Encompass Web. So don't have to worry about today. Oh, you do? You do Encompass Web with IP restrictions? So you must have everybody logging in through a virtual? John said, I actually thought SSO and MFA were the same thing. No, they are not. They are not the same thing. Everyone has the same IP. Get out of here, Brian. They can't have the same IP with some magic from IT that I don't understand. I don't know. We'll talk about that later. Normally companies that have people logging in remotely don't have the same IP unless they're logging in through a VPN. If you're logging in through a VPN, that's fine. You're just going through a security layer to get to the internet of your company. So anyway, yeah, exactly, Kevin. That's what I said. Yeah, it's not. I mean, yes, it's Encompass Web because you're logging into the web, but it's not free web, so to speak. All right. So while we're in here, the other thing I wanted to cover in that's not Encompass is the let's bring this up. Sorry, gang, I thought I had this up. Is Input Form Builder, and this has to do with plugins. So there was a lot of brouhaha at the ICE conference with regards to plugins and the expense of time against the productivity gain, and are plugins worth it? So I'm going to bring up, for those that don't know how to find plugins, I'm just going to show you really quick. And so you come into tools, and again, you go into manage customizations. And if you have any plugins, they would be right here. So you can see I've got this EPP Plus, I've got this Encompass Form plugin, I've got ATI Bulk. That's it. If you've got other plugins installed and you don't know what they are, call to action, please. You should know exactly what's in your system. You should know why it's there. You should know when it was installed, and you should know what it's doing. And a lot of this comes into baselining. So the idea is that when you go through and you have plugins installed in your Encompass, there is a potential for a significant impact to your performance. Now, so if you didn't know this, ICE has been doing better at documenting which Encompass has which plugins. If you didn't know this, anything that's in here with a DLL is actually reported through ICE. So ICE already knows what you have. They always have. So it's never been a secret. If you have something in here that is affecting your performance, they can go in and find out, and they can give you a tap on the shoulder to be like, hey, just so you know, your Encompass is not performing as well as it could. And so what does that mean? So, these are some baselines. If I can get my mouse to work properly. These are some baselines. Go ahead and take a screenshot. And I'll post this into the community, into the thing too, into the post. And these are from ICE, right? And these are good, and these are milliseconds, by the way. If it's time or it's numbers. So they're saying, listen, if you have auditable loan fields, I always said 250, they say 201, whatever. Custom alerts, custom calcs. This one I kind of have a wiggle on because I have an environment that has a significantly higher amount than 301 custom calc, right? Custom calc fields as opposed to just custom fields, and their impact to their performance is actually they're actually one of the faster Encompasses I work on, and that has to do with a lot. I believe has to do with the plugins that are on there. But this is something that you can kind of take back. Notice that she got 2,500 reportable database fields, and those are things that you might want to just keep an eye on. One of the things that's interesting here is user groups and organizational hierarchy depth. So I know there's a lot of chat going on. I want you guys to keep going on chat. I have no idea what you guys are looking at, so I'll trust whoever's watching that is keeping an eye on that. Good information. But over here on the screen for what's being shared, I want you to keep an eye on when you're going through the health check. Again, you can't always run a report to see what you have. You can use your settings system report. Hopefully you know what that is. You can also run system audit trails to kind of get an idea of how many you have of certain items. But the idea is, if you have anything if your Encompass performance is not as fast as you think it should be, these are some items for you to turn to and look. And so that brings me into how fast should Encompass be? It's probably rare, again, unless you got a brand new instance of Encompass delivered to you, it's probably rare for you to know what is fast or what is not fast. But to give you an idea, when let's see if I can get this Encompass to come over. There it is. So this is my production environment. If I can hit the screen properly, come on, there we go. So when I come into a loan and I load the loan now, I am live broadcasting on a 5G connection in a hotel. If I was actually at my home desk, that sucker loads in about 5 seconds. Even on this connection, it loaded whatever it did. So basically, take a stopwatch, whether it's on your smartphone or on a regular stopwatch, whatever you want to do, 3 times for each occurrence. Log into Encompass, so go from login screen until you get to either the pipeline tab or the home tab, depending on how you have your admin tool set up. 3 times, write down the scores. 3 times, go into a file. 3 times, save a file. So make a change to a field. Don't just hit click save. Go into a field and make a change to anything, and click save. So do that and then click save. So that's a save event. And you can, if you have this status bar enabled in admin tools, you can kind of tell where you are in the save event. And then the last one is exiting. So not save and exit, just exit back to the pipeline. So from here back to the pipeline is what we want to get to. It's going to close this loan tab. It's going to bring you back to the pipeline. So those are the things you want to test for. And when I get back to my desk, which will be Friday, I'll post up what the times actually are on a high-speed internet connection. In my world, high speed is about 150 megs, way faster than a regular connection. If you're on VPN, yours will probably be north of 250, if not a gig speed. All that matters because that ties into your experience. So again, it says the more rules you have running without conditions, the longer it takes. So we're going to get into business rules in further down in the health checks. Today was really focused in on baselines for Encompass, going through admin tools, going through plugins. Brian says, I've got a gig with VPN, it's 90 meg. So your VPN is actually slower than your local. Sucks. I don't know what to say about that. Sorry. Significantly slower. Yeah, by magnitude of 10 plus. So what I found in health checks, just to kind of summarize today, what I found in health checks that, again, is rarely done is documentation. If you don't document what you found and you don't write yourself recommendations, then you don't have a plan. If you don't have a plan, then you got nothing. And I say it this way because when you're doing a health check, if I come in, I'll just use me because I do this stuff all the time. I'll come in and give a health check. I delivered one last night to a company using Encompass. I interviewed 9 departments and found 89 recommendations. The most impactful, I'll say, is moving them off of using paper and Excel outside of Encompass and putting that data into Encompass. That was the first thing. The second thing that was the most impactful, their team that managed the purchase advice never even heard of what the purchase advice tool was. They actually created a custom input form to document the profitability of the loan, but they weren't using the secondary registration tool, 4th column, nor were they using the purchase advice tool, nor were they protecting the purchase advice in the e-folder. These are all things that I look at it and I'm like, how did you not, who helped you before? Because they should have given you this basic information. But it's the reality of what I find. And so that's the reason why I want to do this series for May and June, was because I don't want anybody listening to this recording to not know something that is just so obvious to others that nobody's told you. You can't Google this stuff. It's not in any ICE course. It's in all the courses I teach. I go through all this stuff line by line because I know there's a huge gap of knowledge and I'm trying to transfer it before I die. Like, I know sorry to be grim and grotesque or whatever, but it's all this information that I've learned. And I want to make sure you guys have it so you can teach others, you can do better, and we can make this whole thing work. Because I do believe in the Encompass platform. I work on Meridian Link. I work on Lending Pad. I saw Arrive for a hot second. Obviously, Point. I've been on Byte. I did a technology and workflow review on Byte last month or 2 months ago in March. I know all these platforms, and by far, nothing's even close to Encompass. Nothing. So where Encompass gets a bad rap is because of people who over-customize and don't understand what they're doing and make it complicated, or they load up Encompass with all kinds of garbage that they don't need from a technology perspective because their workflow sucks and they haven't gone back and figured out the workflow first. So again, for those that know me, I talk candid, like it's just me. And if you find something in anything I'm saying that you feel is wrong, let's talk about it. And if I'm wrong, I'll be the first to admit, yeah, I'm wrong. But usually I'm not, because I've seen all the problems. And usually when people take these recommendations, they become successful. So I want you to do that. I want you to go through and set a moment. Today's May 7th. So use May and June. Go through your settings. Document your plan for what you want to have happen. Come to the community and ask questions like, hey, I have this. Should I be concerned? And just like you saw in today's chat, in today's meeting, everybody's got information to share, which is really cool. So don't be bashful. There is no bad question. So Angie says, how are you all handling occupancy field for non-occupying? You make them primary. You have to make them primary because the calculations won't work properly. So it's not about it's weird, and this is a compliance debate. But when, like Angie, if I was on your mortgage application and I was doing it as a cosigner, but I'm not going to live there, the occupancy statement should be no for me because I'm not living there. But yeah, it has to be primary for the calculations. And I can't give you an exact answer why, other than it has to be. So some borrowers are like, but I'm committing fraud. I don't know what to tell you. Hopefully that helps. But that's the way it's been forever. I don't know if it'll ever change. I'm actually surprised the problem still exists. But yeah, and Candace and Lubin, I'm sure everybody else will tell you it's the only way to get that loan through. We see it all the time. All the time. Okay. Any questions? Any comments? Any commitments? Like to go in and do it and start your own self-health check? If you think you need like some type of help, like a workbook or something like that, if you think that's worthwhile for us to put together, I'll be glad to put that together. But honestly, go through, know your workflow, go through each of these recordings step by step. I built these topics up intentionally like this because these are the most common areas that I find opportunities for improvement. And so I hope this is helpful, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. 30 minutes is up. You guys stay awesome, okay? Oh, and by the way, at the end, for those that don't know why I was in Vancouver, I was in the area helping my daughter find a new place here in Seattle, and Knowledge Coop is down in Vancouver. So that's where I took my NMLS testing, and those people are super cool. And so if you don't know who Knowledge Coop is, by far the best NMLS and continuing education courses out there. Ken Perry runs that place, and their team is super cool. And it was neat to see the set and the whole thing behind, because all you see is a screen, right? But to see it in person and meet everybody face to face was really awesome. So shout out to Claire over there for helping me that, and obviously shout out to Ken Perry for hosting me today. And so you guys have a great rest of your day. Be well. We'll see you next Tuesday, and ask questions in the community. Keep it going. All right, again. Peace. See you.